Over 1,700 new millionaires are created every single day in the US alone, and more than double that across the globe. They're people from all walks of life, most of them people just like you and I. So the big question is this: how are so many people who didn't inherit money or have any special advantages overcoming the odds and becoming millionaires? That's the question, and this show will give you the answers. My name is Jeff Lerner, and welcome to Millionaire Secrets. And welcome to another episode of Millionaire Secrets. Your host, Jeff, back with you for another exploration of the not-so-secret secrets of becoming successful in this world, which are that it's really hard and you have to be good at what you do. I'm here with my new friend, Greg Reid, and in teeing up his introduction, I was told that all I need to say is, here's Greg. So I'm going to say, here's Greg. Welcome to the show.
And then the crowds go wild. It's funny. I got a domain name. There's no such thing as secrets.com because it's so true, right? After all the people that you and I have probably come across in our lifetime, we've realized that a lot of it's just common sense not applied, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I come from the internet marketing industry. You know, I started in affiliate marketing and I kind of came up through the ranks, and I had an agency and I create courses now. And the internet marketing industry, because we're so obsessed with copywriting, like what converts. And I swear the highest converting word in the industry, at least Russell Brunson has kind of made it seem so anyways, is the word secrets. Traffic secrets, .com secrets, funnel secrets. I've got millionaire secrets. Everybody's obsessed with secrets, and there are no secrets.
I know. That's so funny. I do an event called Secret Knock. The same exact thing. Right. The whole idea is to make things a little bit different. And hi, everyone. By the way, my name's Greg. I'm a local author, speaker, filmmaker here in San Diego, California. For those of you who don't know my work, I've been published in over 100 books, 45 different languages. And I have, my number one film, I think it's trending on Netflix right now. It's called Wish Man. So everyone go check it out. It was Oscar qualified last year, and here we are today.
Awesome. So, clearly a very successful person, and surely you must have a secret that's unlocked all that for us. Would you mind sharing?
Well, I've got a few of them actually, and it's kind of interesting. When I did a book called Think and Grow Rich, 3 Feet from Gold. And it was all about not giving up before the miracle happens. And one gentleman I had a chance to go face-to-face with was the inventor of string theory, John Schwartz. And he said, successful people seek counsel and failures listen to opinion. So people listening, here's a big news flash. Successful people seek counsel and failures listen to opinion. Opinions based on ignorance, lack of knowledge, inexperience, like your family, friends who've never done what you want to do. Counsel is based on wisdom, knowledge, mentorship. People have paved the way. So if you go to a family friend and say, hey, I want to start an online business, they might talk you out of it to protect you. Plus, they've never done it. But if you go to Jeff and say, dude, I want to get in the industry, he's going to say, hey, sit down. Here's what you need to know, and give you counsel based on wisdom, knowledge, mentorship. If we would spend our activity only listening and seeking counsel and ignoring people's opinion, that's the day your life would change.
Man, great advice, especially in a world where we are so inundated and deafened by information flying everywhere.
It's driving me nuts. The other day, I woke up 3 o'clock in the morning and I says, there's no credible sources out there. All these Instagram, fake wannabes. And by the way, it's our fault. Let's take accountability for a second. We're the motivational people who said, you too can do this. Fake it till you make it. And then we get pissed off when people are faking it till you make it. So it's our fault. So just to be clear on that one. However, there's a lot of people out there that are not actually getting the results they want, and people are still listening to them. Stop. I think it's time that everyone stop and does what Napoleon Hill talked about years ago. He would go up to someone who would offer counsel and say, I appreciate that feedback and information. Where did you learn that from? Right. And if it was not from a credible source, he would just thank them and then go on with his way. But if it meant something, he'd hold on to it and apply it.
So you mentioned Napoleon Hill. So the 3 feet from gold, there's a story at the beginning of that book about the guy who's, I can't remember his name, is Darby.
Are you Darby? Absolutely.
Are you Darby? Yeah, yeah. So that sources from that story, I assume, right?
Well, Okay, well, for those of you who are not familiar with my history, here's a short little story. In 1908, Napoleon Hill was an aspiring young magazine reporter. There
I
you
have
go.
the book right here on my desk.
He gained access to the richest guy in the world. His name was Andrew Carnegie. And basically, he gave him a letter of recommendation to meet all of his friends and wrote the 20th best-selling book in the history of the world, The Bible of Personal Development. 100 years later, to the exact date, the surviving grandkids of Napoleon Hill and the foundation gave me the same letter. And so I have a ticket to meet any human alive. And I write what's called the Think and Grow Rich series through the Napoleon Hill Foundation. So for example, you mentioned 3 Feet from Gold. So yeah, this is our first mega bestseller. I wrote it with Sharon Lecter, who did Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This went on to go 45 different languages the first 6 months. And it was the only book in the history of the world that was actually published by Barnes & Noble.
Huh. Very cool. Yeah. So for people who don't know the story of R.U. Darby, maybe we could give them a little context.
Yeah, well, he was a guy not seeking counsel. He listened to people's opinion. And he had something called gold fever back in the day when everyone was doing the big rush. He went out west, started digging, found a hole, a couple nuggets inside, and got excited. So he hid it, told his family and friends, and they chipped in money to buy it out, ore cart so they could pull out by the truckload. And when the first ore cart came out, it was sure enough filled with gold. Everyone was happy. They were dancing, thinking they're going to be rich. But then the gold ran out. They kept digging, but there was no more gold. Defeated, Darby walks out of the mine and says, I quit, and sees a junk man walking by. Says, hey, give me $200. I'll sell you this mine and all the equipment. The junk man surveying the equipment was worth thousands because the family chipped in, said, you got a deal. And Darby went home a quitter. But the junk man goes to an engineer and says, what happened? This cat hit gold and ran out. And the engineer laughed. He said, it's mining 101. Everyone knows that gold runs in a straight line. It's called the gold vein. What Darby did is he came in one side, hit gold, and popped back into dirt. He said, go back to where they discovered treasure. Go 90 degrees, 3 feet the opposite way, and you'll tap back into the vein. Not only did the junk man pull millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of dollars out, but that's what fills Fort Knox today. And the moral is, how many times have we or someone we know quit one class short from a degree or sales or marketing? So I went on a 3-year journey, and I interviewed everyone from the creator of string theory to the founder of, Chuck E. Cheese, from the person who started NASCAR to the founder of Make-A-Wish. And I found out exactly what they did and how they didn't give up 3 feet from gold.
Man, I think about the number of times in my life I've been 3 feet from gold, and I'm blessed to say that I'm, quote, lucky, because at least once, or probably I think I can think of 3 times I didn't give up, and it's the reason I have a life that I'm pretty in love with. But yeah, it's true. I feel like I'm on the internet all day, every day, whether it's doing this show or creating videos or doing live streams or whatever. And I feel like I'm imploring people. You actually summed up, you literally summed up my entire life is don't quit 3 feet from gold and get good counsel. Like, be careful who you learn from. Yeah. Right.
And it goes further for me, at least. After 3 feet from gold was a giant mega thing, I did a follow-up called Stickability. And I mean, this one, everyone from the founder of Apple computers to you name it, it's absolutely insane. And the first guy I interviewed was a guy named Marty Cooper, who invented the cellular phone. And he said that, stickability has to be parallel with flexibility. He says, if you know the story about a spider monkey in the rainforest, they couldn't catch it, but one hunter, San Juan, figured it out. He took a heavy log, drilled a tiny hole, dropped a peanut inside, and left at the base of the jungle. The monkey would smell the nut, reach his hand in, grab a hold of the nut, and his fist becomes so big, become anchored to the log. Mm-hmm. All he's got to do is let go, but he thinks that nut is nutrition, so he's saving it. The question is, could we be holding on to our own nut in life? But it could be in the form of a job or a deal or fear or guilt or house. And what we think is saving us, just like the monkey thought the nut was, could be the thing that's leading to our own demise right now. Sometimes we have to have the courage to adapt and adjust so we can live to fight another day.
That's funny. As many times as I've heard the analogy or the story of the monkey, whether it's a banana peel or a nut, I've never actually heard it told in that context of like, what's your nut, right? Or what's your thing that you're holding on to that you can't see that it's got you shackled inside of something that's ultimately going to get you caught, right? It's going to probably get you either caged or killed.
Well, it's so funny for myself. I always let those things stop me until finally I started learning these ahas. Look, many receive great advice, but few profit from it. So, for myself, I'm always looking at those ways to spin that cat. For example, I did $1 million last year in one of my corporations, and people go, well, what did you do differently? And back to Steve Wozniak, he taught me a great lesson. He says, don't run away from what scares you, run toward it and adapt and adjust along the way. Look for opportunity. And so what do you mean? He says, well, when microchips came out, they were so expensive, we could afford one. He goes, Hewlett Packard would go from A to B with 20 chips. He goes, so I'd pull away 5 and go to A to B with 15. And then I'd pull away 5, get it to work with 10. Ultimately, I went from A to B using one chip because that's all the money we had. But by looking for an opportunity, we found the shortest, cleanest path. And he goes, where could you be in your own business if you stop looking at something as your greatest obstacle, but it could be a blessing in disguise. So I went back to the company, started realizing the things that I thought were the hiccups were actually the things that were giving me a catapult, redirected it, made $1 million just by making a couple little tweaks.
So you mentioned stickability. I know you have another concept that I've seen you talk about in some of your stuff that's, and it struck me because it's an acronym that I use to mean something totally different, which is CPC, which for me means cost per click. But it feels like maybe that's kind of what you're at least partially alluding to here.
Yeah, CPC is about accountability and responsibility for every single thing that happens. Look, I did this one here. This is called Wealth Made Easy. I interviewed people worth $100 million to $1 billion for 3 years to find out what they did. And one multi-gajillionaire guy, he goes, it's about accountability and responsibility. CPC, clues, patterns, choices. He goes, if you go out on the first date, she's 20 minutes late, there's a clue. But if you go on the third, fourth, fifth date, she's 20 minutes late, it's a pattern. And then it's your choice whether you deal with it, adjust it, or break up. But it's not her fault. She's just late. Stop trying to change people. He goes, how many times in business, someone with a bad reputation, they cheat your best friend, you do business because they'll be different. It's not. And then you're mad at the person. You saw the clue, you saw a pattern, you made the choice. Stop blaming other people. And what happens as soon as you start growing up and taking responsibility for things that happen around us, then all of a sudden we can also take action to adjust and adapt so we can have the life we always dream.
And it's so interesting. As you're saying that, I'm thinking about my industry. I come again from the internet marketing industry, and my industry is so full of just degenerates, for lack of a nicer way to say it. Wannabe, phony gurus, people that, like you say, they've heard one too many motivational talks saying, you can do it too. And they're like, sweet, I don't even have to be qualified. I can just do it too, right? And they go out and they rent a Lamborghini and they get hire a kid off Craigslist to come take some video of them for 2 hours, and they make an ad, and now they're the next guru, right? And they're, and I'm thinking, and then the tragedy isn't that they do that. The tragedy is that thousands of people blow thousands of dollars or more investing in that so-called information or wisdom that's bogus, right? And my platform, almost my brand in the internet marketing world is like, hey, this is the guy that's no bullshit. He just tells it like it is. He'll tell you how hard it is. He'll try to scare you off, and if you still come back, then he'll let you in. And it's kind of that's my shtick. But I'm 41. I'm married. Like I know good things are hard. I'm married 3 times. I have 4 kids. Like the worthwhile things are tough, right? But I look at that and I go, okay, what'd you say? Clues, patterns, and choices. If you're out there, whether it's online or off, whether it's going to seminars or not, if you're getting advice from people and you're not getting the results that you want, that seems to me to be a clue and actually a pattern. And you're in the growth and development industry. I'm in the growth and development industry. Would we say that it's fair to say there's a pattern of people that are either getting good information and not implementing, or getting bad information and implementing and still not getting a good result?
Well, they're both.
Those are both.
Yeah, they're equally a challenge. And again, though, it's not our job and responsibility for people to take action. So, I'm kind of over that stuff.
Yeah, and that's why I like what you said, is that the third piece is that it's actually their choice. If they're going to keep getting information from unqualified people because they don't check their sources, or they're going to keep getting information from you and not implementing, it's their choice.
Yeah. People come up to me all the time. They go, my life is horrible. I'm in a bad relationship. I hate my job. What do I do? And I go, well, first of all, look in the mirror and kick your own ass, because you're the one who courted that person to get in that relationship. You're the one who lied on a resume and did what you had to get that job. Do something about it. It's not other people's fault. And you got to start sucking it up and looking at the glass the way it truly is, from your perspective, that it could be half full or half empty, depending upon the observation. But the fact of the matter is, we're the person that we got that's there, and we're also the person who can get us out.
Yeah. So I'm curious, your thoughts. You've been in the growth and development industry. I got into it in 2008. Well, I was a student of it in 2008. I'd say I became a, teacher or whatever only in the last 2 years. You've got some more experience than me. Help me out. Like, what is it that stops people? What is it that's really in people's way? Because I feel like it doesn't matter how good I am at what I do, I can never be better at what I do than other people are how they are, if that makes sense.
Well, so what's the question?
Yeah, I guess what's that is my question is, what's the issue? Like, what is really happening with people that they're just not getting out of their own way?
Well, again, people are listening to and applying people's opinions rather than counsel. I'll give an example. Look, when I did my first book, I was turned down 268 times in a row.
Now we're talking. Yeah.
And the 269th one said, we'll do your book, change the title, beginning, middle, and end. And so I sought counsel, and I called the people that turned me down and says, be honest, no hard feelings. You already said no. What was wrong? And they go, oh, your writing sucked. You're like a third grader and thing. I went, awesome. So I got a ghostwriter, and they took my words and crafted away people who went to read it, and it went on to become a juggernaut, success. My movie that's right now trending worldwide on Netflix, same thing, 6 years, everyone in Hollywood telling us it won't work, all the reasons it'll fail, the whole bit, but we kept persevering and going. And we had made the ballot for the Oscars. And the whole thing is, I cannot let another person or myself talk me out of what I know to be true. Now, listen, I don't talk about hope to be true or believe or wish, but that thing the things that you said, goes, 3 things went good for me. Those are the 3 things that you knew would work. And so the whole difference is, people got to stop following wish as a fucking business plan. It's not.
That's funny you say that. One of my good friend, guy I've done business with a couple times, he was in a documentary, and the last line of that documentary has never stopped ringing in my ears. And he said, hope is not a strategy. Mm-hmm. And
hope is not a strategy. Success is going from failure to failure, setback to setback, without the loss of enthusiasm. That's it. That's the big news flash. You guys all want a secret? That's it. You got to go from setback to setback without the loss of enthusiasm, because that gives you the momentum to go forward. And again, a lot of people say fail forward, fail fast. I'm not a big fan of that, because I'm not going to look for and attract failure in my life. I'm going to pass on that. But I am going to say that I'm going to attract and look for successes, and I don't mind stumbling across the finish line, however I got to get there.
It's funny. There's a lot of people who look at kind of I hate the term motivation, so I'm trying to tiptoe around it, but like that, the personality type or the industry that's like, we're going to get people excited. And they say, oh, well, that's just hype. And they're just enthusiastic. And I sometimes want to say back to them, did you say they're just enthusiastic? That's like saying, oh, don't breathe that. It's just oxygen. Like you said, going from failure to failure and setback to setback without the loss of enthusiasm. Unreasonable enthusiasm, the ability to persevere at optimism and enthusiasm and I've interviewed, at this point, I don't know what episode this is, like 45 or something. I mean, I've interviewed dozens of really successful people. I'm aiming for hundreds and even thousands. Not one of them isn't 10 times more enthusiastic than the average person.
Yeah, I found that to be true as well. And not only that, they're not the smartest people. They're always the most either connected or they learn how to leverage. And to me, that is the key to success. The gentleman who started, Velcro, he said to me, he goes, look, I go, how did you sell 5 billion people Velcro? And he goes, never. He goes, I sold 5 people. I go, what? He goes, I only sold 5 people in my entire life, Velcro. He goes, I sold the head of automotive, the head of aerospace, the head of fashion. They found the application. He goes, stop selling everybody. And so again, when we did our book, 3 Feet from Gold, we sat down with the founders of Barnes and Noble and said, hey, why don't we do our first ever JV where no advance, nothing. We'll share the profits that come in, but we'll be partners for the first time. And they did. And guess what? Who's got a bigger email list, me or Barnes and Noble? And that's why it's always on the bookshelves. So the realities are sometimes you have to just do a great leverage, deal, because that will open up the doors that most people will never have.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. I think about, and I've found this to be a common theme across, people's lives that create a result that's, let's call it unusual at scale. There's always a few moments. There's always a few inflection points where, and very often it was like you just said, it was a relationship. It was a connection. And your life in many ways, your life is achieved or squandered in those moments. Whether we have 1 of them or 5 of them or 10 of them. And the number one thing that you can bring to those moments, and Mark Cuban actually said this, he goes, the number one thing you can always bring to any meeting, I don't remember if he said with me or to any meeting in general, is enthusiasm.
Yeah. Enthusiasm. And then also, how can you be reciprocal in a relationship? So I don't want to dust over this thing. Look, people always ask me how I maintain the relationships that I have with the people we have. And the answer is I always bring a value to them. And more importantly, I honor my mentors by following through. When I wanted to be a motivational speaker, I went to a guy named Les Brown. He's a motivational dude. And I said, give me 1 nugget of something I could do. And he did. And then I hunted him down a month later and said, hey, I met you a month ago. I asked for a nugget. I did it. What should I do next? What's the chance of him giving me the second nugget? 100%, because nobody has ever done that.
Right.
And then what happens is you build this relationship because you honor your mentors by taking action. But then more importantly, you're going back and showing the results that you made.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Man, I just think about what you're saying. So it's like, I think this conversation, it kind of almost makes it sound easy. We'll just be enthusiastic, follow through. And frankly, these are simple concepts, right?
And specificity. So what's different with me than a lot of different people is I'm a very specific guy. So for example, when I wanted access to the guy who started NASCAR, I would say, hey, I need 12.5 minutes of your time. I'll fly from San Diego to Florida to meet with you. By the time I open the door, to the time I leave, will be 12 and a half minutes. We'll start a timer. I'm going to ask you one simple question. Why you didn't quit 3 Feet from Gold? Shut up. Now, the chance of them doing that and responding is through the roof, because I'm not asking them to pick his freaking brain. I'm not asking them to lunch. I'm not going to dinner. They don't know me. So specificity is key. And I'm realizing the same thing for access in today's world. If I get off stage and there's 10,000 people, there's a long line and they say the nicest things. Hey, I want to work with you. How can I be of contribution? How can I be of service? Wonderful statements. But I don't know who the frick you are. I don't know what you are. I don't know any background. So now I have to do a resume check. Don't make me work. But if I walk off and say, dude, I checked your Instagram. You got 500,000 followers. I like your memes. I'm going to send you a free one. I think you'll dig it. If you like it, maybe you'll use me. 15 seconds. I know who you are, what you do. You got my cell phone. Boom, done. Yeah. That is what people are missing today's world. They're not being specific and they're not getting to the point.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I think about, I hired a guy to help me essentially grow this show. I mean, I've been online for 12 years. I started my education company 2.5 years ago, decided 2 months ago, hey, I want to do a podcast because I want to start building relationships like this one, right? And he's been reaching out and he's had such good results. I mean, he's booked some really, Dave Asprey, the founder of Bulletproof, just booked on the show. And I mean, he's getting to people. I'm like, how are you doing this? Who am I? Right? I mean, like I'm a big fish in certain small ponds, but like Dave Asprey never heard of me. And he's like, and I looked at the messages that he's been sending and they're exactly what you just said. They are so concrete and specific, and they articulate not only the specifics of who I am, but exact specifics of what's in it for the other person in a way that even if I'm not a well-known person in those circles, it still differentiates me from anyone else that's making a similar request. And I love that. I love your emphasis on specificity. I assume you get a lot of people reaching out to you online or maybe offline too, coming up at events. And like you said, they're like, hey man, I want to be successful. What do I do?
Well, actually, I got a TV show that right now is in production. It's called Wake Up and Crush It. And the whole concept is that the TV show is based on that. People come to the house all day, nonstop, and they want access to this. This is my little thing of all my contacts. I call it the switchboard because I use it to connect people. And in here, I've got kings and queens and the presidents and you name it, they're all in here. And so people always want access. That's what I've realized. But I say, before I can give you access, you got to prove that you're worthy and deserve it, so you don't make me look bad and make you look bad at the same time. So I make them jump through a bunch of hoops to make sure that they're serious. And if they do and they come out on top, I usually open up the letters and of recommendation so they can have a head start.
So I have an off the cuff idea, so that my audience maybe can benefit from the type of thing that you're talking about. Because I have a very aspirational audience. I mean, the show's called Millionaire Secrets. These are people that want the secret to becoming successful, right? So how are you comfortable if we take what you just said a little further and I say, look, not because I want access to your Rolodex, not that I wouldn't say yes to it, but could you model with me even what you're kind of talking about in terms of the exercise and the jumping through the hoops, just so that everybody else listening can kind of mentally take themselves through the hoops too, because they're maybe not going to get to be on your show?
100%. I love saying yes. So what happens is if I get off stage and you say, hey, I want to work with you or I want to do something, I say, excellent. The answer is yes. Here's my cell phone. You need to text me Tuesday at 10:10 a.m. And I just want you to say the word watermelon, make some up. Mm-hmm. And then what happens is that gets rid of 99.9999% because you give them an actionable step. And if they do that, and then I say, great, well, now I need you to meet me at my house Thursday at 12:05, and I need a crayon drawing of a squid or 2 empty lobster shells, whatever. And the people that actually will come up, reach out, text me, and show up with 2 empty lobster shells, the chances are they're already going to be teachable and learnable, which is this 1/10 of 1%. I don't try to fix everyone. I don't try to help everyone. I look for the people that are willing to bleed from their knuckles. And then when they come in, I usually play some type of game, whether it's chess, pool, ping pong, cornhole, I don't care what it is, because how you play games is how you play life. And if they cheat or if they manipulate or they complain or whine, you can see exactly the character of themselves. So I take people through a little gamut just as an observation so I can see exactly who it is I want to work with.
So I think that's really powerful what you said about, and I had an early mentor that was like, always just hit the ball back to them. That's what he would say. He's like, somebody, because he had an organization that had, 50,000 subscribers, 50,000 customers. And so the constant bombardment with, and he's like, I just always hit the ball back because a lot of them won't hit it back again. Right. It's kind of what you're saying, but I would like everyone listening to really take a minute. And here's what's cool. I'll say this. I know that if you said that to me, I mean, I live and die by my schedule. I would put an appointment in my calendar and I would text you 10:10 with watermelon. I know that. I can say that with confidence. I would text you watermelon at 10:10 next Tuesday. I'd like everyone listening to really ask themselves that question. Would I text Greg back 10:10 next Tuesday with the word watermelon? And you're right. I mean, if we're all being honest, like, I don't know the data, you'll do the show and you'll let us know. But I mean, 95, 99% of people won't do it.
That's 99.99999. It's funny. One of the things that Tony Robbins taught me was kind of cool. He said the power of saran wrap. And the concept was back in the day when they'd send out all those books and the CDs and DVDs and cassettes, what would happen is if you ever notice you go to a garage sale today and they have the whole set, it's usually saran wrap that's sealed.
Yeah.
And they said what happened is that the return rate was super high because, people would send them back because they would get them and never use them. It was like the thing. He goes, but if you put saran wrapped and sealed it, as soon as they pop that seal, they think they own it. So therefore they never returned it. So we start saran wrapping everything before we send it out and our returns went to nothing because then it's that accountability and responsibility for following through.
Man, that's genius. I mean, leave it to Tony. That's just straight up genius. It's funny too, as a marketer, we do all these things. It's sad. I say it's sad. I mean, it's just human. I don't know if it's sad or not. It's just human. We know I sell online education. And I mean, we're really nerdy marketers. I mean, we quantify everything. We have data and conversion stats for every piece of our funnel. And we just know the number of people that buy versus the number of people that even log in. I mean, I could run the report right now. We're talking about people that pay anywhere for my intro course, anywhere from $39, maybe there's a couple upsells up to, $100, a little over $200. I don't actually have the exact stat, but I'm guessing it's between 50 and 60% that actually log in literally half a second later. They buy it. In fact, we don't even make them log in. We take them to a page that auto logs them in that's got one step. And the one step is a little 2-minute video of me saying, hey, you're here. I'm glad you're here. Right below this video, we have your username and your password. Please write it down so you don't mess it up. And by the way, we had to start setting everybody's password to be exactly the same, because even with that step, we got so many people messaging, oh, I lost the password, I misplaced it. But even then, half the people never click got it and just go into, they don't have to go in, they're already there. They just have to be there. Half the people, they just bought it. It's mind blowing.
All right, so I'm going to teach you a lesson my mentor taught me.
Thank you. Please, I need some help here.
My mentor, his name is David Corbin. He wrote a book called Illuminate. He says you don't have to run away from things, the reality. He says nowhere in PMA, positive mental attitude, does it say you got to, put a Band-Aid on something or sweep it under the rug. What you want to do is deal with stuff. And I remember I said, why does I want people to have success more than they want for success? And he says, you don't understand the power of roots. And he goes, stop trying to fix people. And that's how I got to where this conversation has gone today from what I'm about to teach you. Mm-hmm. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, roots. I go, what the hell is roots? He says, you might find someone who's down and out. They might even be in the gutter. Doesn't make a difference where they're at. We've all been there. He goes, but look for the people that are bleeding. They're kind of gushing from the back of their hands. And I go, why are they bleeding? He goes, roots. I don't get it. He says, well, they don't like being in that gutter. So what they're doing is they're flinging their hands out trying to grab a handful of roots. And he goes, if you can find the select group that are willing to bleed, yell encouraging words and tell them where to grab the next set, eventually they'll pull themselves out and then be able to teach others to do the same. He goes, stop trying to fix everyone. Just look for the people that are willing to bleed. That bit of information changed my life. So that's how I implemented all of these rules and regulations in my life. So that way I can only surround myself with people that are willing to do what they got to do.
So it's interesting. I know some really talented people in my space and I don't know if it's their greatest attribute or their darkest curse, that they can't fully adopt what you just said. They so strongly, and I believe altruistically, they want to try to save everyone. And what happens is, they take this beautiful, I'm actually thinking of two people in particular. Obviously, I won't name their names, but they take this beautiful talent that they have and they diffuse it across what feels like an endless quicksand of desperation and downward pull. And I think they end up doing really is sacrificing themselves.
Right. And so again, I feel sorry for those people, but that's not my job. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. I'm an author, filmmaker, speaker, and I run a bunch of businesses. It's so funny. When I started my event up here, Secret Knock, people kept asking me how they could meet my friends because I got to meet all these amazing people. So I started with 12 people in my living room, and now we're Forbes, Inc. and Entrepreneur's top event in the world for business leaders. And the way it works, it's $3,000 a go, and we will not tell you where it is. We will not tell you who's going to be there. You have to fill out an application, jump through all these hoops and talk to someone before we'll even let you give us money. And by doing that, we've created the most exclusive, elite group of action takers that the world's ever seen. And the businesses and the relationships that have come from this community over 14 years, it's insane.
Well, my first question is, where do I find the application?
Secretknock.co. Yeah, it's so funny. We left the M off so no one could find us, and still people did. It was so funny because last time we did it, I brought in Presidente Vicente Fox, and he was sitting on stage. I go, President, let's start our conversation slow and we'll work our way up. He goes, okay. I go, I understand you're building me a wall. Thank you. And he goes, you son of a, he was so fast. It was great. I mean, we've had everyone. I flew in Tonino Lamborghini, Mr. Lamborghini from Italy last year. And we did a private Skype with Edward Snowden while he's hiding in Russia all the way down the line. Wow. And the idea is, how do you go right to the source and surround yourself with the people that are doing what everyone else is just talking about?
Yeah, that's so okay. Let me ask you then, for the average person who either can't swing $3,000 or, you know, wouldn't qualify for whatever reason, how do you advise people who want to dramatically up-level their environment and the average of the people they're around outside of Secret Knock?
Well, you can start right in your own hometown. It's so funny. I started something called the Mastermind Association last year. So the whole idea is, I realized that people are not doing real masterminds. What they're doing is, online Instagram guy charges X amount of dollars to sit around their living room in a semicircle and teach them shit. And basically, it's not a mastermind, it's just a mini seminar. Right. And so people were not following the actual Napoleon Hill's guidelines. And so I created the first ever Robert's Rules version of exactly how to run, host, and maintain your own mastermind group. So I would recommend someone go through that training, honestly, and get certified. And then you can start running and hosting your own one. Because guess what? You're not alike. I mean, you're not alone. There's other people just like you that are waiting to hear from you. So if you're in a small town, I guarantee someone there's got a cool car dealership and someone else got a great restaurant and someone else. Reach out to these people. They have no one to talk to. Yeah. The secret to success is to surround yourself with people you have respect for, not people you have influence over. So start your own little group and reach out to the people you admire.
Surround yourself with people you have respect for, not people you have influence over, because one will feed your life, the other will feed your ego.
Correct. Well, great. See, nice little added. I learned that from a gentleman named Ruben Gonzalez, the only guy to ever compete in 4 Winter Olympics in 4 different decades. And he and I would travel around the world and do crazy adventures. Like we climbed Mount Kilimanjaro and ran with bulls and you name it. We're just like adventure buddies. And that's his whole thing. He goes, first there's a dream, then there's a challenge, and then there's victory. Unfortunately, most people quit in the challenging times because they don't have that group, that association to surround ourselves with. And everyone's heard the quote 1,000 times. We're a reflection of the people we hang around, blah, blah, blah. Well, if you know it and you heard it, then why in the hell are you still telling your dreams to your uncle who doesn't know what the hell you're talking about? It's your fault. Shut up.
Yeah.
Your fault. Oh, so the whole thing is start your own group. Do something about it.
Yeah, it's so true that people, I think, and it took me the longest time to learn this, that you have to differentiate between people's love for you and their qualification to give you advice. Because frankly, the fact that they love you predisposes them to want to keep you safe more than to want to see you fulfilled.
Well, more importantly, you're getting opinion and not counsel. Look, if you're going to start a brand new restaurant chain and your dad's a bus driver and your mom's a nurse, they're going to do everything to talk you out of it because they only know jobs. They only know one little thing. And again, it is to protect you, but you're also listening to people that don't know what they're talking about. But if you sat down with the guy who started Chuck E. Cheese and Five Guys and In-N-Out Burger, they're going to say, great, here's what you want to do, and give you that feedback. Surround yourself with people that are getting the results you want. Look, this is my favorite thing. The way I became a best-selling author is I went to Barnes & Noble and I bought every best-selling book. I didn't buy every best written book. I didn't want to be a great writing author. I can't spell it. So I asked those people how they did it. I duplicated it. Here we are now, and they just gave me a star on the Walk of Fame for being an author for a guy who can't spell out of a paper bag. So surround yourself with people that are getting the results you want.
Yeah, I love that. I love that for a few reasons. One, because you're surrounding yourself with the people whose results you want to emulate. And two, I love the fact that you can't spell because it didn't stop you from being a selling author. I love the fact that Richard Branson was dyslexic and it didn't stop him from being a billionaire. I love the fact that people transcend circumstances and overcome, quote, handicaps all the time. So much so, it's like once is an anomaly, twice is a coincidence, 3 times is a trend. Well, what happens when it's 3 million times? What do we call it then? If 3 million different human beings have overcome massively handicapping circumstances to achieve wild levels of success, it's beyond a trend. At that point, it's just it's basically a guarantee that there's something that's happening in those cases that'll get you there if you do what they did. If it happens 3 million times, I don't think you can disqualify yourself from it as a possibility for your life any longer. So I love the fact that you're one more of the millions of examples of people who, in your own, you did that in your own way. You became a best-selling author when you can't spell.
Oh, I'm the least qualified guy to do what I do. And so the only thing I do different is, again, I surround myself with people that are getting the results you want. So for example, when I did this book, the guy who wrote it for me, his name's Gary Krebs down here. He's the former publisher of McGraw-Hill Publishing Corporation. Again, who can write a better book? The guy who did this one writes all the curriculum for Princeton University. Who's going to write a better book? So when I did 3 Feet from Gold, Sharon Lecter, Rich Dad Poor Dad, who's going to write a better book? So I'm smart enough to get out of my own way. And look, when we're making our movie, dude, I don't know anything. I'm sitting on the beach in California and San Diego. I don't know what I'm doing. But the fact of the matter is, here's a cool little story how this came to be, because it's kind of neat. The movie's called Wish Man. And I was interviewing Frank Shankwitz. He's a guy who founded Make-A-Wish Foundation, the grant wishes to terminally ill kids. And I asked him a question. I said, what is your wish? And he said, well, no one's ever asked me. I said, well, I'll grant your wish. What do you want? A Lamborghini? Let me give you something. And he goes, I just want my story to be told so my grandkids know I did something. So he signed over his life rights, and I said, I'll make it into a movie. I just don't know how to make a movie. And he trusted me, and it took 6 years of so much BS of Hollywood and trying to figure it out till finally I just took all the information, and I got one great counsel from the founder of Showtime Television, and I went and made this film, and again, it took off, and we made the ballot for the Oscars, and now we're trending all around the world. You can watch it tonight on Netflix. It's an incredible movie because I followed successful actions of others.
Can you hold up that book again? Any one of them? The one with the bull on it.
The bull? This one's called...
Yeah. So that doesn't seem very fair. How come your name is bigger than the guy who wrote it?
Because that's the way it works. An author is the person whose name is the author of the book, and the writer is the person who wrote the book. Guess what? Rihanna has never written her own song. Neither has, majority of the people that you think famous, from Elvis Presley down to Frank Sinatra. They never wrote their own songs. Yeah. It's their message. So what happens is I sit my ghostwriters down and I say, a boy gets an entrepreneurial spirit, wants to buy a bike, gets off his ass, mows lawns, makes money, gets that bike. And then they take it and say, it was a glorious Sunday afternoon when a young bright-eyed lad caught the entrepreneurial spirit as he went outside, right? So they do their job, but it's still my message. So the way I write my books is it's all you can hear me. I'm a great gift of gab. I can explain myself clearly. It's just the punctuation and things like that. I need someone else to craft it in a way people want to read.
Yeah, I hope everybody's hearing this, because I think people, again, people find ways to disqualify themselves if that's the result that they're looking for. Oprah Winfrey, the most powerful woman, one of the most powerful women in the world, multi-billionaire. All she did was get other people to talk. I mean, that she's done more now, but she built for decades. She got hundreds of people onto her show and got them talking. She asked good questions, took all the credit. We've all seen Oprah. People who've seen hundreds of episodes of Oprah, can you name more than a handful of the guests that were on there? No, you just remember her, even though she was asking other people about their lives. Joe Rogan just got a $100 million deal from Spotify because he gets interesting people on a show and asks them questions. What's her name? Paula Deen, cooking show. She never cooked anything on her show. I suppose she's a great cook. I don't know from watching the show. She was always having other people on and featuring them. Like it access, people skills, and all the stuff that, Greg, that you're talking about, the specificity, reciprocity. I think people hear this stuff sometimes and are like, yeah, man, I don't know, but really I need to make some money. And then I'll become a more evolved person later. Right now, I just need to make some money.
Okay, stop.
Yeah.
So one of the worst deals we can do in business, everyone listening to this thing, it's called an if, when, then. You should write it down. If, when, then. That's the kiss of death. That means if this happens and when this comes together, then this is my reward. Those are fantasies. That's like, again, a lottery ticket. If I buy a ticket and when the numbers come out, then I'm a millionaire. Or if you go back in life, you start looking at your if, when, then deals. The very few of those ever do. If they do, they're the holy grail, and God bless you. But 99.99%, it's hitting singles and doubles. It's that knowing. So, the whole thing is we got to stop and look in the mirror and go, what am I holding on to as a nut, rather than adjusting and adapting? How can I use that attention for something that's more productive and powerful that can help me make a positive impact in the world?
Yeah, there's that makes me think of that Jack Ma quote, the founder of Alibaba in China. Have you read that quote? It's about poor people. It's slightly offensive, but I love it nonetheless because it's wise. Where he says, and it's a long quote, he's like, at the end of it, he basically said, you Google Jack Ma quote on poor people, you get the whole text, but basically he sums it up by saying, poor people stay poor because their entire life is about waiting. He's like, tell them it's a new business. They'll tell them it's too risky. Tell them it's, tell them it's brick and mortar. They'll say it's too much work. Tell them it's online. They'll tell you it's a scam. Tell them this, their whole life is just they're waiting. That sounds kind of like what you're saying.
Yeah, it's if, when, then. It seems to be the fantasy. Plus, all we know is all we know. So again, I feel like that's putting blame, shame, guilt on people, and that's not fair too. Because at the end of the day, all we know is all we know. Again, if all we've seen is our family dynamic of everyone work, job, and that's what we know, then that's what we know. I was raised a rich white kid in the beach of California. I don't know anything except that. So that was my experience. Yeah. So it's kind of, I don't feel bad. I don't feel like people are doing something wrong because they have that mentality, but the masses just don't have that education, so to speak, to apply it. And I got to tell you, offline, when we're done with this thing, you and I should connect. I got another call to do in a little bit, but you and I should jump on and see, because there might be something here. And I've never said this on a podcast in my life, but it's interesting. I'm sitting on this holy grail of amazing human beings that want to share real life information from real life experience that have made a huge impact in the world. And yet I've never met an online marketing guy that could help take that message to the masses in a positive, productive way. And there might be some type of marriage made in heaven.
Well, online marketing guys don't usually start podcasts, and they don't build relationships because they stay in their online marketing bubble and they don't venture out and do big mainstream business. Thank you for validating my decision 2 months ago to do this. That's exactly this. Everybody just experienced it. It's synergy that happens when you step out of your comfort zone. This isn't my comfort zone. My comfort zone is sitting behind a computer hacking funnel data,
Anyway. You should be out there because you got more hair than most of us. So that's still a good thing. It's interesting when I was doing this book, I got like 3 more minutes, but Wealth Made Easy. It was so interesting. Like Lamborghini gave me great insight. So did the founder of Remax. But my coolest one was a billionaire you never heard of. And his name's Brian. And he said, time plus wealth is money. Stop complicating things. I go, what do you mean? He goes, time plus land is money. He goes, all I do is I look for a town that's growing exponentially at 25% a year. Go on Google Maps. It's free. You can see it grow. He goes, I look for Broadway, Main Street, and I draw a line out 8 miles. I buy the dirt. I rent that dirt to farmers who pay the lease, so it's free land, and I get vegetables for years. And as the town grows at 25%, eventually it ends up on my plot. Since I'm on Broadway, Main Street, I own the biggest amount of land. That's what I sell to Costco and Walmart for 800 times what I paid, $1 billion. And every single one of these wealth hacks of this book, I sat down with these people for days, and then we reduce it down to one simple paragraph or page of exactly how to make money in any chosen field of endeavor.
So what's the name of that book again? Hold it up for us.
It's called Wealth Made Easy.
Because that was pretty genius what you just said. I think that's actually a great note to end on, even if you didn't have to go, which I know you do. Greg, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on Millionaire Secrets and for ending on a bona fide millionaire secret.
There you go. And the bottom line is this. If we're a reflection of the people we hang around and our income, attitude, lifestyles, the average group, start asking yourself, who am I hanging out with? And do other people want to hang out with me? And start taking that observation where you take accountability and responsibility. Surround yourself with people like this show and start applying the messages, because we need another book and seminar and a positive quote like a hole in the head. What we need to do is start applying what we know today.
Amen to that. Where can people find you online?
Just Google me. But the main thing is, if I can be of contribution back to people, go to Instagram and DM me, but don't talk about your weather and your kids and what you ate for dinner. But if you have a specific question, send it to me and I promise I'll get back.
And text him watermelon next week on Tuesday at 10:10. Thank you, Greg. Thank you for watching Millionaire Secrets. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and leave us a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you know whenever we release a new episode. Also, if you want to learn the fastest way to become a millionaire in the new economy, click the link in the description below to claim your free copy of my book, The Millionaire Shortcut. And don't forget, Millionaire Secrets is available on all the major podcast platforms as well. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you can listen on the go. Thanks for watching.